Hello, everyone. Welcome into another episode of PTV FC. As always, I'm Louie Pasculli, joined alongside Graham Marshman here in the fourth installment of Season 3 of PTV. But we have another special guest joining us. Very happy to welcome junior Seton Hall soccer player Phoebe Hampson on the podcast today. She'll be talking some footy along with us. She just finished her season just a few days ago and had the best season of her career so far here at the Hall. We'll be discussing some Premier League footy as well as your thoughts and feelings about the season as a whole. First, Phoebe, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on the podcast. Yeah, I'm good. Just finished our season, so letting the body recover before we get back into practice.
That's sick. Louis, I'm doing good too. Chelsea just won, big day for me. Dortmund just won,
Nice.
big day for you.
Oh,
Both
yeah.
of our in our respective cups. But yeah, I'm just here, ready to talk about some football, ready to talk about some Seton Hall football too with Phoebe. Just very exciting to have you on, Phoebe.
Yeah, it should be a very good episode. As you mentioned, I had to say it before we get into it because we're not going to talk about Dortmund today, but they won. Marco Reus, lone goal of the contest, ended up winning 1-0 in the round of 16. DFB Polka, very happy. Didn't realize it was on. I got a notification. I was like, oh, I got to watch it. And so I and watched it. So regardless, Man City seems to be a common talking point. I feel like we've talked about them for the last 3 weeks. Phoebe, you grew up very close to Manchester. We're a fan of City forever. They currently sit tied with Arsenal at second in the Premier League, only 2 points behind Tottenham, and they're first in their UCL grouping. Now, there's a lot of storylines to unpack here, but what are your overall thoughts on the season for Man City so far?
So I feel like once again we're proving ourselves as a strong side, scoring a lot of goals, scoring more than we're conceding, and of course Erling Haaland with 11 goals, proving he's the best offensive player in the Premier League. I don't think that's too controversial to say. Um, had 10 games is still a lot to play for, but in then 10 games is only a 2-point difference between us and Arsenal at the top, so it's all to play for. It's still very early, but I think a couple more dominant performances, some more wins, maybe preying on Arsenal to drop a couple points. I think the league's very much winnable for us this year still.
Yeah, and Phoebe, I had a question for you about Manchester City. So you grew up close to Manchester as a child, and there's another club in Manchester, maybe aren't what they used to be. But what made you pick City, especially back when you were a child, when they weren't the club that they are now, especially, and they had United there too?
Yeah, so my granddad was always a Manchester City fan. Like he has a City keyring with the old badge on his keys that he takes with him everywhere. So that made my dad a Manchester City fan and my brother and then me. So growing up my whole life I've just been a Man City fan, like surrounded by City fans. And I know in school my whole school it seemed like we're United fans. So I would really have to defend City, even in the days where they wouldn't win the Premier League every year. But yeah, City through and through.
And fun fact, Phoebe actually got the chance to play for Manchester City before heading over here and playing for the Hall. We'll get to her Hall career in a second, but focal point of Manchester City is KDB. Now he has not been playing in quite a long time, and there's still quite a big timeline until he can return. But there are questions surrounding his willingness to play, his effort. We talked about last podcast how he was at a UFC event instead of being with the team. So obviously one of the best Premier League midfielders probably ever. What do you feel about like what's happening now with his career, with this injury and all of the surrounding factors?
Players get older, players get injuries. Maybe they want to spend more time with their families and doing things they enjoy. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I think Kevin's a great player. He's proved himself. I think if he wants to go to a UFC event, maybe once in a while, he can maybe prioritize himself sometimes over the team. But I think he's a great player. I don't ever doubt his willingness to play. Like he's achieved so much. He helps the team when he's on the field. Everybody gets injuries. I'm sure he's struggling with that just as much as the team is struggling without him. I think everyone wants to see him back on the field. I mean, him and Haaland have a connection like none other. He has probably one of the best vision in the Premier League, and people want to see him play, even if they're not Manchester City fans. So I think everybody wants him to get back out on the field.
Yeah, and the thing is though with Kevin De Bruyne that you mentioned his injuries and he getting older and everything. That seems to be kind of a consistent theme, especially like in the past few years in the bigger games of like his career, like the 2020 Champions League final against Chelsea. He went off in the first half with an injury, and obviously that's going to have an effect when you're like the best ball playing midfielder probably in all of Europe, I think, and all of the world. But I think losing him kind of do you think that's having a really big effect right now on the development and on the developmental side and like the build up play for Manchester City? And who do you think is going to be in there filling those gaps for, someone like Kevin De Bruyne?
I think that he does leave a big hole in the team. But I think City have such a great squad with great depth that I don't think his absence will be missed too much. I think the squad still has a lot to offer without him.
Yeah, and I mean, like the team is still second in the Premier League. They're still only 2 points out of the first spot, 2 points away from Arsenal. And so you're right in that part. And I read an article today. It was interesting because it's like Pep Guardiola has spent basically the entire first portion of the season here, trying to find the best starting 11 to pick without Kevin De Bruyne. And like that, it just now are they starting to like come to a consistent starting 11 where they have Bernardo Silva in the midfield, Foden on the right, Grealish on the left. And that seems to be what they're rolling with. But that was something I didn't think of last podcast when we were talking about it. Is like it for Pep Guardiola. Like there are certainly some critiques of him with his system, his style of managing. But that was one that is never easy for any gaffer, and he did a fairly good job considering that they're still very very high in the table. Also, something I just thought of: we need to have a Ryan Johnston Phoebe Hampson podcast when it's like the second to last or last game, because Ryan Johnston is an Arsenal fan. So I think that might be pretty interesting.
Yeah, if it gets there, I don't know. If it
I
get
mean,
if it's the last week of the Premier League and they're tied on points or like it's anyone's win, I think that's for sure. But you never know. Chelsea, I mean, like Chelsea could. No, I'm just kidding. We suck.
no, I don't think we'll have to worry about Chelsea, unfortunately.
No, I don't think we will.
But moving on. So this team has very high expectations every year. It's been that way for the last few years. Do you think that if Arsenal or Tottenham is able to edge out Manchester City in winning the Premier League, is this a failure for this team?
I think failure is a large word. I think the Premier League ultimately is one of the best leagues in the world. And City probably shouldn't be winning it every year because I guess the point is that it's the most competitive league. There are no easy games. So I think it's not a failure if we don't win, but I think we should be in contention to win. I think there are expectations that the team performs and does well in the Champions League, the Carabao Cup, and the Premier League. We have one of the best teams. We should be coming away with some of the best results. So there's expectations, but maybe not expectations to win every single time.
Yeah, I think I have to maybe agree a little bit with you, but I don't think that's the way, you guys have. I don't think the fans will. I think the fans will react in a very similar way to you. Like, you guys won't be so upset over the fact that, you're not winning the Premier League this year after you've won it like 5 times in the last 6 years. It's unbelievable. I think, now, especially now that you have the Champions League under your belt, which was like the long coveted thing that you just could never get a hold of. Now that you got that, now that you've done the second treble in English history, in all of English football history, both of them were done in Manchester, coincidentally. But I think Pep Guardiola might feel it's a failure because just watching him and based off the fact that he wants this team to perform and win he's a winner. He just wants to win every single game, no matter what. I don't think he'll accept something like that, but I think the fans will be much more willing to, accept if you guys maybe don't get it this year. Maybe give someone else a turn.
And I think the focus would be the UCL. I feel like that, like, because Manchester City had just won it the year before, I feel like that is more of what has escaped Manchester City. That's always been, the big stone they couldn't overturn. And now that they finally have one, like, I feel like they're Pep Guardiola and company wants to go out and make sure that that wasn't a fluke. So I agree with you in the sense that it's not a failure. I think the UCL, though, is what they would be prioritizing. But talked about some European football. Let's come over here to America, talk about some Seton Hall soccer. Phoebe, you're a starter on the women's team here at the Hall, listed as a midfielder. You played a little bit of everywhere this season, started all of the Big East games. Unfortunately, the season came to an abrupt end a few days ago when Seton Hall took on UConn, ended up losing 2-0, and some other pieces didn't fall your way via the other games that were happening at the time. So just take us through that game and your thoughts.
Yeah, it was a huge game, and ultimately our season came down to that game to qualify for the Big East tournament. And our program's not done that since 2011, so this was a huge opportunity for us. We came into the game knowing that we could do it. We were a good side, and we were at home. Previously at home, we'd beaten, tied 2 ranked teams. We tied Xavier and Georgetown at home a few weeks prior. We started the game off very, very strong. I thought we were the best team coming out in the first 20 minutes. But UConn got a penalty in the first half. They put it away. And then coming into the second half, at halftime, we knew we were still in the game, only 1-0 down. And the penalty went to VAR as well, which, the call was, I guess, unfortunate for us and good for them. We knew at halftime we could go in and win because we just come back from Butler the week before, and we were down at halftime against Butler, and we managed to tie the game up. So we knew we could do it. But then in the second half, they pitched another goal, again, a VAR goal, which obviously doesn't sit too well with me because a decision like that, you want it to be clear. And just the fact that video assistant referee has to come in and help, it doesn't. I almost feel like we were robbed in 2 decisions, but ultimately they were probably the better side over the 90 minutes, and they came away with the win. It would have been nice if we got some more wins previously in the season, so everything didn't come back to the last game, but unfortunately that's just how things played out.
Yeah, and you did mention like the previous, you wish you had some previous wins in the season, and you guys might have struggled a little bit, but really toward the end there, you guys had a great pickup that we all very much noticed the fact that maybe slow start. And in one of your coaches in the interview, he said that you guys are starting to get the results you deserve. How did that feel, like that build up over the season, like we're starting slow, and then what do you think was the turning point to really gradually make you guys the team you were at the end of the season?
I think so. We lost our first 2 Big East games. It was Villanova and Providence. And I think after that, we made a couple of changes, and then we started getting some better results. And then from there, when we started getting results, we thought, it gave us confidence. We thought, oh, we can get results. We can tie against these teams that we previously lost to. We can beat these teams. We're not bottom of the Big East where we were predicted to be. We realized our capability, and then we came out and we, especially at home, we played how we play in practice. We showed teams what we can do, and I think that definitely gave us confidence.
Yeah, there's a lot that went well for the Seton Hall women's soccer team this season. A big step up from last season as well. But now that the dust has settled, 2 goals, 2 assists. We'll talk about the team in a second. How do you feel about your performance this season?
Yeah, I think it was my strongest season yet here at Seton Hall. It's always a really good feeling to score and assist, so it was nice that I got the 2 goals and 2 assists. I think my performances were pretty strong. I had a couple of shaky games here and there where I lost my groove, but the last couple of games, I think I got back into it and I finished strong. Unfortunately, I didn't finish strong enough. It would have been nice to get some more goals and assists in the later stages of the season. Because I think towards the end we needed a couple more goals and a bit more creativity up top. But I'm overall happy with how I did.
That's great. I mean, Phoebe, obviously me and Louie haven't played soccer at the level that you do.
Not even close.
Not even close here at Seton Hall. How would you describe what it's like because not many people score collegiate goals. Like college soccer is very hard to score in at the Division I level. They're very close, not very high scoring games, even at even on the lowest levels of Division I soccer, which I don't consider you guys, but in general, it's very tough. It's very physical. It's very defensive heavy. What do you describe like how that feeling is of scoring a goal in Division I soccer?
It's unreal. I remember sophomore year when I got my first goal for Seton Hall. I scored and I couldn't even believe it myself. I thought it was fake. It honestly feels like a dream. I can't even put it into words how great the feeling is to know that you've done that for your team.
And then once you score, I've seen it before. You have a nice celly, the baseball celly. I've seen you do that. Take us through that too. That must feel once you realize, oh shoot, I just scored. I got to celebrate. How does that feel?
It was so good, and I'm very close with the softball girls. So sometimes I go out and I play a bit of softball with them, and they're teaching me all the good techniques. Not that my swing was anything like a proper softball technique, but I think I planned out what I was gonna do if I ever scored, and then it happened, and I was like, well, this might be my only opportunity to do this celebration, so I've got to take it.
I mean, Phoebe did pretty good in our softball
Yeah,
game.
say
So
the
yes,
don't sell yourself short
Yeah.
there. That softball game, you were raking it out there. You played great in the Seton Hall WSOU softball game.
And in the fields, you was starting at like short, starting at third too. So like each inning, that was a good time. But moving back on to Seton Hall women's soccer, overall good season. So you talked about your feelings about yourself. How about the team and squad as a whole?
Yeah, the team have been great. Everyone comes together and everyone brings their own unique thing into the team. Um, Everyone works hard in game days and in practice. There's always a good feeling in the team, and we're all definitely excited to go again next year. We came away from the season with a feeling of disappointment, but I think we have a lot to be proud of, and we all worked so hard. And I think there are definitely good things to come, and we have some great girls on our team. Like, I wouldn't want to do this with anybody else.
That's awesome. I mean, I love the way you just talk about the camaraderie you guys have together, especially since, you said you were predicted to finish last in the Big East, and you kind of proved yourselves that you guys weren't the team everyone thought that you were. You had one of the best seasons ever. You beat or you got a result against, was it UConn? Yeah, UConn. Not the last game, but the time before you played UConn. Or am I thinking of the wrong team?
We
Is it
got a we
Xavier?
got a tie against Butler. We tied Xavier and we tied Georgetown.
Was it Xavier was the first time you've ever gotten a result against Xavier since 2011? It's been a very long time.
That
It
might
was the
be
first
right.
time you ever got a point from Xavier in the last 12 years, I think. Which, just doing stuff like that is absolutely awesome, especially for us, the viewers, and for you, the players, too. So thank you so much for giving that to us, too.
And first time in program history that the Seton Hall women's soccer team has gotten a point against two different ranked opponents, or two different games against a ranked opponent, happened for the first time in program history just this year. Now, I know it's early. I know the season has just ended, but the entire house will be juniors. A lot of the freshmen this season, or the entire house will be seniors next year. A lot of the freshmen on the team currently will be sophomores. And again, probably another big recruiting class for Josh Ozza, the head coach, as he did a fairly good job last season, as a lot of his freshmen they recruited came in and played, whether starting or from the bench. So how are we feeling about the season ahead?
We're all very, very hungry. We all want next season to happen tomorrow. But yeah, we're very excited. There will definitely be a lot of freshmen, a lot of new additions to the team. So I'm excited to welcome them into the team. I think we'll be back stronger than ever. We're keeping a lot of our key players. Natalie Tavana got Big East Offensive Player of the Year today, which is incredible. And Pucci made the third team, sorry. So to keep players like that and other players, Rachel Gary, unfortunately, I don't know how, but they didn't give her an award, but she completely deserves one. Um, we're all staying, so we are unfortunately losing a couple of good players, but um, yeah, we're keeping a lot of big players for our team. We're going to be getting a lot of new players. Next year, I expect more wins. Big East tournament appearance would be nice. And just like another great year with the team. It's going to be a sad one because it's the last one for everyone in this house. But we'll make it count.
No, Phoebe, that's great. And what do you think is going to be the thing you're going to try to improve upon to make these things happen next year, to make those Big East tournament appearances, maybe?
So I think this year, as Louis mentioned at the start, I've been moved around positions a little bit, especially since I've come to Seton Hall. And I think I established myself as a midfielder this year. So staying in my one position and getting to know the ins and outs of that better will help hopefully get more assists for the team because I'll be in the right positions more often. And just working hard in practice. Everything that we do in our season comes down to this spring and the summer. It's not all just on the day. So everything comes down to hard work. And I think keep doing the hard work and everything will pay off.
Perhaps we'll see flashes of KDB next season from Phoebe Hampson. I guess, Graham, you're going to have to let me know how it goes because by that time I will be gone. But I will still be watching from afar. And
No.
I know it will be unfortunate. I won't be on PTV FC anymore. I won't be able to call any more games. But I like I said, I will be watching from afar and supposed to be a fan, but or not supposed to be a fan, but most likely will still be a fan, being that this is supposed to be unbiased, but we can blur the lines here a little bit. I think that will do it here for this edition of PTV FC. Phoebe, we really, really appreciate you coming on. Do you have any closing remarks here before we end?
Go Pirates, and thank you for having me on.
Of course. And something I forgot to mention, hearing how excited you are, how hungry you are for the next season is also exciting for people like me and Graham, whether fans or reporters, regardless, covering a team and or talking about a team that it just really wants to win, really wants to improve on the season before is just an electric atmosphere, electric thing to have happen here at Seton Hall. But that will do it. My name is Louie Pasculli. I'm joined alongside Graham Marshman and our guest, Phoebe Hampson. We will see you next time. Go Pirates.
Go Pirates.
Super go Pirates.